Ashe, 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 and welcome to Storytime, where I share my readings and retellings of the timeless tale of the Orisha. I am Ashley, your Orisha storyteller and guide through the rich mythology and folklore of the Orisha. It is my hope that these stories uplift you when you're feeling down, expand your perspective of the Orisha, and strengthen your Ashe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this Orisha story. They always say when a man have a good woman at his side, he could do anything. I don't really know if that's a saying, but that's how I think it goes. And when it comes to Shango, Oya is that good woman at his side. This story gives a little insight into their relationship. You can find it in Santeria Stories by Luis Manuel Núñez. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's get started. Oya helped Shango evade his enemies by disguising him as a woman. Then she fought at his side until he was victorious. Many years ago, Shango was embroiled in one of his unending wars. He had fought for many days and killed many of his enemies, but more came than he could kill. He found himself surrounded in the middle of the forest. In Chile, he shouted, but his famous magical horse had become lost during the fighting. Shango was afraid to yell again. He might be found. He heard his enemies beating the bushes and shaking the trees to find him, and if they did, they would end him. Without Inchenle, Shango had to scurry through gullies and cover himself in river mud to hide from his enemies. Days passed. His enemies did not rest. They did not eat. Shango tried. He was tired, he was hurt, and he had to keep running without sleep and without food. He ran until he reached the place where Oya lived. This was very, 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 very deep in the woods. Very few people knew that Oya was Shango's wife. Shango pounded on Oya's door. She opened it and saw him bruised and cut and panting. "What has happened to you?" cried Oya. "Oya, they have me surrounded," said Shango. "They want to hang me from a tree." "Come in quick," said Oya, hustling Shango into her house. "My lightning is not effective against these enemies today," he told Oya. "That's because you lack the courage to fight," she said. Oya gave him water and she gave him something to eat. "It's not courage I lack," said Shango. "I'm just tired." So what do you want from me?" said Oya. "If I could escape my enemies, I could rest and sleep and, Shango said, I could recover my strength and then I could go back and destroy them." Oya said, "Why you only come over here when you need help?" In those ancient times, Shango was used to fighting by himself, but he swallowed his pride and he said, "Oya, please help me." Oya thought for a moment and then she said to her man, "When the night falls, put on one of my dresses. The disguise will let you escape." "But they'll still recognize my face," Shango said. Oya said, "Well, I'll cut off my hair and I'll put it on your head, and that will complete the disguise. So I'll cut off my hair, to save my king's life. I love you. I'll have, I'm gonna make that sacrifice for you." And Shango looking at her like you gonna look a little weird without your hair. But they went ahead and did it anyway. So they waited until nighttime and Oya, she didn't light a fire. She was afraid that the smoke coming from her chimney would be noticed by his enemies and draw them to the house. And she didn't want really nobody looking at the house. So when the sun went down, but right before the moon rose, Oya cut off all her beautiful hair and pinned it to Shango's head. And Shango didn't know what to do with all the woman's hair. It just fell across his eyes and it was just all tangled up in his ears. And he just looked really awkward. Shango set him down and she just kind of braided the hair back into some braids, put the clothes on him, put the dress on him, had him dressed real quick. And when he was dressed, and he looked kind of possibly passable as a really bulky, big, ugly woman. Oya pushed him out the door. She was like, "Ain't nobody around. Hurry up and get out. They won't find you." So Shango stepped outside. He was imitating Oya's walk. And so he reached the forest and came across the line of men searching. He greeted his enemies like, "Hey guys, how are you doing?" And they didn't really think too much of it. They was like, "Oh, his voice sounds a little weird. Maybe Oya is just uglier than we thought she was." And he was able to escape his enemies. Once he was far away in the forest, he made a camp, he rested, and he slept, and he regained his strength until he was able to fight. His magical horse in Chile managed to find his way back to Shango, where Shango was able to, give the horse some rest and fed him and groom him. And days later, when they had healed, Shango mounted his horse and he said, "It's time to go kill them people that was playing with us." It was dawn when they reached the enemy's camp, and he came rushing at them. His fury was terrible to behold. Lightning flashed from his hands, and he shouted wild warrior cries. Oya has turned into Shango, his enemies shouted when they saw the screaming apparitions bearing down upon them, long hair flying back and a gown flapping in the wind, and they panicked. Behind them, Oya came striding out of her house, fully armed, ready to fight. "If Oya helps Shango, there is victory," she shouted. Oya and Shango were victorious, and since that battle, Oya has been as Shango's inseparable war partner. When Shango's thunder, we see Oya's winds, and they are invincible and remain so to this day. This story just tickled me, as many of the stories do in this book, Santeria Stories by Luis Manuel Núñez. One thing I love about this story is it kind of gives like a little fantasy to the Orisha stories. It's more childlike and it's more whimsical, where Shango has this magical horse and he's asking Oya for help, where he's normally like, I wouldn't normally swallow my pride and ask a woman for help, but I need your help right now. If you want to read this story and others like it, make sure you check out Santeria Stories by Luis Manuel Núñez. You can find it on the book list at theasheshop.com, where you can also book an individual session with me and get some spiritual bath and body products to anoint that body. I look forward to hearing from you. You can always email me at ashley@theasheshop.com. Thanks for visiting the Ashe Shop, and Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Oh.